Hey, church family, we're so glad that you tuned in with us for another weekly devotion. We're going to continue a conversation that Derek began last week on endurance and hope. And today we're going to look at Psalm 130 and ask what it means for Christians to hope. Let's look at Psalm 130. The psalmist writes, "Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord. O Lord, hear my voice. I wait for the Lord. My soul waits. And in his word I hope. My soul waits for the Lord, more than watchmen for the morning, more than watchmen for the morning. O Israel, hope in the Lord. For with the Lord there is steadfast love, and with him plentiful redemption, and he will redeem Israel from all his iniquities." Now, when you hear the word hope, what you tend to think of, at least in our English, or our common English usage of the word hope, is more of a blind optimism, right? Like, I hope the weather next week is good so that we can go on a barbecue, or I hope that the NBA season continues and fulfills. It's more things that you want to happen, but there's not a sustainable reason or basis or anchoring for those things to happen. It's more like wishful thinking rather than expectation. That's kind of our culture's notion of hope. But the biblical notion of hope is one we see here in this passage. And it's compared to a watchman waiting for the morning. Now, if you know anything about watchmen, they're called to watch a certain time, a shift to watch and see if enemies are coming in. But everyone knows that the 3 to 6 a.m. shift is probably the worst shift, right? And I'm not sure if you've ever pulled an all-nighter or if you've had to experience a similar feeling of a watchman waiting for the morning, but it's a grueling experience. I remember me and some friends drove out to a national park out west. We drove to the Grand Canyon from Tennessee, and I got the bad end of a driving shift. I got the 3 to 6 a.m. driving shift, right? And so we're driving through Kansas at like 4 in the morning. I'm the only one awake in this minivan we've rented. And it felt like a million years that we were in the dark. And I could not tell you how much I was hoping for that sunshine. Another similar experience I had is when I was camping and it was pouring down rain, and we were on this bald on the top of a mountain. And it was like 4:30 a.m. And it was just miserable. And you're just hoping for the sun to come. And that's kind of how we feel right now, right? In the midst of all this chaos, in the midst of all of this seemingly never-ending cycle, and you always read headline after headline that seems to indicate that we're going to be in a situation of waiting forever. But just like the watchman knows that the sun is going to rise, we have a hope in God that he is going to act, that he's going to restore all things. And we see the reasons for hope here. It says that we hope because because of who God is. God is steadfast love. To him belong loyalty and love. We know that God is loving, so we know he's going to continue to act loving. But also we hope not just in who he is, but in what he's done. And we see later in this psalm that with God there is plentiful redemption. Another way you could translate redemption is ransom. We have hope because God has been our ransom in our place. He carries us through. He gave us himself. And if he did not abandon us on the cross when he was suffering our sin, how would he abandon us now? He's with us, even if we don't feel him to be with us. And this hope, though, is a tension. Perhaps you've heard Derek mention how the Hebrew word for hope here, or waiting, is kavah. And it gives this notion of a cord being wound up. It's a tension, like a guitar string being pulled, or just think of anything, a rubber band being in tension. And what are we expecting? Do we have a cultural view of hope where we're just expecting either to break, the rubber band to snap, or to things to continue on? Or do we expect a release, a rest? Because that's what God promises us. He promises the sun is going to rise. But just as a watchman hopes for the sun to rise, from experience. That's how he has the hope. He's had a lifetime of experience, or she's had a lifetime of experience. Similarly, the only way that we can foster hope as Christians today is to experience it, is to practice hope. Now, what do I mean by that? Instead of turning on the morning news or reading the latest Boston Globe article, we're called to hope in God. Try to reorient your heart. Don't look at your phone, don't look at social media, don't look at the news even, but spend the first hour of your day in silence and prayer and thinking about who God is and what he's done, the two things that the psalmist meditates on. And it's only then when we begin to fill our vision, fill our experience with God, that we can facilitate, the Holy Spirit can facilitate hope in us, so that hope is a knee-jerk reaction to all of the chaos we see in this world. And that tension that we have in our lives, that tension of waiting for something to happen, we know that there will be a release, just as the watchman knows that the morning is coming, even though it's terribly dark. So let us hope in that together, church.